Should have the GoPro going by tomorrow. But just got some dinner and came back to my Airbnb. Very windy tonight. Lots of snow blowing around. Not sure how much we're going to get tonight. So this is how it's going to be today, I think. Just clouds, low clouds, fog. Nothing. You can't see anything. Everything's brown, frozen. 2 degrees Celsius.
April is clearly not the best month to visit Newfoundland. While it still might be snowing, there generally doesn't seem to be enough snow to really stick around long enough on the landscape. And the clouds, so many clouds. It seemed to be raining or snowing every single day. Gray skies, bare trees, nothing was green, everything was brown. Which begs the question, what was I doing in Newfoundland in April? Well, to answer that question, we need to go back several months to when I first began to look for a spot to shoot the full solar eclipse over the North American continent, which was due to arrive on April the 8th, 2024. My original idea was to head to Arkansas, where I could visit my sister and hang out for a while before heading over to the Ozarks to try to get some sort of comp, maybe shooting under a waterfall. But it looked like the sun would be directly overhead when totality occurred. I was really hoping to get the eclipse behind something, and for that to happen, I needed to go as far as I could to the east in order to get the eclipse to occur later in the day when the sun would be closer to the horizon. After looking at the projected path of the eclipse, it looked like my last chance at a low angle before heading off into the Atlantic Ocean was Newfoundland. While the eclipse would have occurred over Arkansas at 1:55, it wouldn't occur in Newfoundland until well after 5 p.m. I had never been to Newfoundland before, and after Googling around a bit, I discovered that my chances of actually seeing the eclipse would be pretty small, as April tends to be one of the cloudiest months of the year on the island. Seeing as how my chances were so poor, I couldn't really justify a trip with maybe a 10% chance of actually seeing the eclipse, but if there were actually some amazing landscape opportunities to shoot while I was there, well, that I could definitely work with. After doing a bit more digging around, I discovered the photography of Gord Follett, who is a Newfoundland landscape photographer with a stunning portfolio. Gord's photos were jaw-dropping, and all of his locations on the island were new to me. As I dug deeper between his photos and Google Earth, it began to dawn on me that Newfoundland had an infinite number of opportunities for landscape photographers, and it seemed to be largely undiscovered when compared to locations like Iceland, Patagonia, or the Faroe Islands. My mind at this point was pretty much made up. I was headed to Newfoundland in April.
Getting on Trans-Canada Highway West, Thursday, April 4th. More fog. Gonna head up to Chance Cove.
After booking an Airbnb in the town of Paradise just outside of St. John's, I arrived on April 3rd with hopes of scouting out locations for the eclipse while exploring as much of the coast as I could during my time there. On April 4th, I set off for Chance Cove, which was a location that was much favored by Gord Follett. Even though my chances of any light while I was there were slim, I wanted to scout the place out just in case I had good light later in the week. After finding a parking spot and hiking for about half an hour or so, I found myself looking down on a gorgeous stretch of coastline that reminded me strongly of the Samuel Boardman area on the southern coast of Oregon. One of my ideas for the eclipse was to use a lighthouse as a foreground element. Ideally, I would be able to find a lighthouse that was on a bit of a hill and shoot it from below, placing the lighthouse directly in front of the Eclipse, right as it reached totality. One of the leading candidates was Heart's Content Lighthouse, which seemed to have a nice angle facing west.
Not much room on this side though, huh? Look at this. Yeah, so you might be able to get out there on that bluff and then shoot back up, but there's not much to that shot.
After scouting Heart's Content for the Eclipse, I decided to keep looking for another lighthouse with a view off to the northwest. Ferryland Lighthouse was about an hour to the south, and the whole area down there looked amazing on Google Earth. Even though this lighthouse would be slightly out of the path of totality, if it was clear on April the 8th, I wasn't going to be choosy. I needed to find a clear sky and a lighthouse, and Ferryland seemed like it might just work. So on April 5th, I headed south to do some more scouting. It turned out that this area was indeed amazing, but it was kind of hard to tell as everything was, again, blanketed by fog and low clouds.
Driving out to Ferryland Lighthouse. Hello. A couple of pullouts here. It looks a bit sketch. Man. Long way out here. Walking trail only from this point. Here's the lighthouse. In the fog.
One of the few advantages to visiting Newfoundland in April is that almost no one else is visiting during that time. It was not lost on me that I was completely alone on my hike to Chance Cove in the middle of the day, and now I was completely alone again on my walk out to Ferryland Lighthouse. After exploring in the fog for a couple of hours, I headed back towards my Airbnb. On the way back, I drove through downtown St. John's, which turned out to be much larger and far more developed than I had imagined. Once I had passed through the commercial downtown area, I began to notice the turn-of-the-century homes that were scattered throughout the city. Someone was definitely making some serious cash at the end of the 1800s in this area, as neighborhoods that I drove through were filled with very large Victorian homes.
Today is Saturday. I think it's the 6th. And I am heading out to Bellevue Beach first.
In 2.8 miles, turn left onto Paradise Road.
And I'm just going to look at my apps, and if it looks like it'll clear up at Bonita Vista, then I'll head up there, even though it's a long drive back, just so I kind of have an idea of what to do tomorrow morning. I'm going to get up at 2:30 and drive back up there tomorrow. And I'd rather have a good idea of what I'm going to do when I get there. Stop for gas pretty soon too.
On April the 6th, I tried to scout out 2 more landscape photography locations that caught my eye. One was an area called Bellevue Beach, which I had to bail on after it became clear that my spot would probably only be accessible during the summer camping season. The second spot was easily one of the highlights of the entire trip. Even though I had no light to work with and everything was still covered in brown, this was easily one of the most stunning landscapes I had ever seen. Located out on a peninsula not too far from Bonita Vista, this amazing location was known as Cable John Cove.
Sun actually popped out there for a minute. Still very cloudy today. Heading west, northwest, north and then west. Staying at Deer Lake, which is on the west side, and then it's about 3 hours down to where I think I'm going to shoot tomorrow for the Eclipse. I gotta get down there at some point and just scout out where I'm going to be. I don't think I can make it all the way down the coast before I run out of daylight today.
On April the 7th, I set off for Deer Lake, which was on the western side of the island. I'd been watching the weather forecast for several days by then, and the latest forecast showed that literally the only clear area in Newfoundland for the eclipse on April the 8th in the zone of totality was on the southwestern corner, which meant a 7-hour drive to the other side of the island. As for the lighthouse, I decided on Rose Blanche, which was a very unique lighthouse built out of stone on a point that had a wide open view to the northwest. I couldn't make it all the way down to Rose Blanche before the light was gone for the day, so I decided instead just to stop at Deer Lake for the night and then to set off for Rose Blanche the next day.
Battery's probably dead on this. Looks like it's still good. Heading south from Deer Lake. Got some snacks. Should have enough food to get me through until after the eclipse. No idea if people are going to show up. It looks like one of the only clear spots on the island, so if people want to see this, they may all start driving down. Coming down on Rose Blanche Lighthouse. There's me and one other photographer, might be a photographer. That's it. I love this. This is an exceptionally cool lighthouse. So I'm trying to set up this shot. It's another path over here along the beach. The question is, how low do I need to be to pull the eclipse into the shot? So I'm going to shoot down there as long as the tide doesn't come up another 5 feet. I think there's a shot. 25, 30 degrees. Okay, so here's the eclipse drama of the day. Sun currently, you can almost see that, about 20% gone. By 5 o'clock, it's going to be near totality. These stupid high clouds moved in. Look, it was like this clear a second ago, and then this crap blew in, like from nowhere. However, it's clear right there. So if that cloud keeps moving and the sun drops, there's a chance that it might hit that clear spot right as it goes total. That's my hope. Now I'm trying to get this composition here. Wide angle, I want to kind of pull this in. And then, you already have kind of a ring around the sun there, huh? And then I want to zoom in, and hopefully the sun will be like right up in there, around 30 degrees. Okay, so you can see it's moving. If the sun drops down to where it's supposed to be, somebody said 28 degrees. If it drops down to 28 degrees and moves over to 248, it should be on the other side of that lighthouse, and it'll drop into the clear. It's clearing like right there. But It's got to keep moving. It's got to keep dropping, and it's got to keep moving. You can't see it here. I'm going to say a third of the sun is gone. It just got so creepy. This is totality, but those clouds moved in. I'm trying to get back up. Look what happened to the lighthouse came on. Oh, look at this. I mean, I hate these clouds because they just killed my eclipse, but man, I'm running up to take another shot. I lined up with my other camera. It's so dark I can hardly see where I'm going right now. It's like night. All right, let's try and get the close up. This totality. Look at it. Where am I at? This way? Look at it. It's behind the cloud. It's just lost it behind the cloud totally. But that thing is still out there, so I'm gonna go back and take some wider shots because you can't see anything from here. Look at it. Look at this. Look at this. Can I go wider? Nope, that's as wide as I can get. That is just super creepy. And I wish I didn't lose the moon. The moon only got on the sun. I lost the eclipse. It's gonna bounce back out in a second. Something's gonna keep shooting until it does. I can't get anything with the other. Maybe I can get it a little tighter. Lights gonna go back off in a second. That was so weird. I couldn't even see. It's a combination of clouds and this stupid eclipse disappearing. Can I get any of it now? I don't think so. Underexposed by like a million. That was genuinely freaky. It's in a little hole right now.
After months of preparation, a big bank of clouds appeared almost out of nowhere and moved directly in front of the eclipse with less than 10 minutes to go until totality. I was convinced that I would come home with nothing after all of that effort, until I looked at the back of both of my cameras and zoomed in. Somehow, miraculously, the eclipse found several gaps in the clouds, giving me shots of totality that I didn't even realize that I had. Here are the shots of the eclipse from that amazing afternoon.
Okay, so Eclipse is on its way back. Sun's on its way back out behind the clouds, about 10%, 15%. These clouds just rolled in like literally 10 minutes before totality. So kind of bummed, but I do have some shots of the lighthouse on, and you can see totality through the clouds. Super creepy. And when it lights up red, so that made it more creepy. It really was like Eye of Sauron, Mordor. Like it turned into Mordor in like within a minute. And then I couldn't even see. I was trying to step down on rocks, and I'm going up now to get my other camera. But yeah, whoops. So yeah, I got up here, it was so dark I couldn't see anything. But then my shot wasn't working for some reason with the other camera. And then I just used the 14-24 and just raced back to get some wide shots.
One of the other reasons for selecting Rose Blanche for my Eclipse location was that it's a stunning lighthouse in a beautiful location set out on a rocky peninsula on a remote corner of southwest Newfoundland. Since it was already 5:15 by the time totality passed, I decided to hang around for sunset. While those high clouds were not good for the eclipse, they were just what I was hoping for as we approached sunset, and the next 3 hours disappeared all too quickly as I continued to shoot until all of the color was gone from the sky.
So, not sure what I was expecting, but today I wasn't expecting this. Last one here, beautiful sunset, beautiful lighthouse, and only 2 photographers for the full eclipse. What the heck? What a beautiful area. Okay, so leaving my motel, Driftwood Inn, about 10 o'clock. Cloudy today with no light, I figure. No sense in getting up at the crack if there's no light. Made a trip to Tim Hortons. And now 6-something hours back to the other side of the island. Well, snowing more than when I pulled in. It's supposed to snow, looks like on the east coast on my way down, which could be a problem.
For 200 miles, continue straight.
After driving through the snow all the way back to my Airbnb on the eastern side of Newfoundland on April 9th, I was down to my last full day on the island. On April 10th, the forecast, predictably, called for clouds, wind, and snow flurries. But there was one area that showed some possible clearing off to the south, right at sunset. It was time for another drive down to Ferryland Lighthouse. The only difference this time would be that there were no low clouds and the entire area had just been covered in snow.
This will be interesting. I don't know. It all looks like a couple inches, but that might cause some problems if it's a dirt road. So it's paved, I think, to the turnoff, and then it just goes dirt.
Turn right onto the downs.
It's pretty steep too, huh? Ruh-roh. Somebody's been in here.
In 3/4 of a mile, take a slight left turn.
Some drifts. Look at that drift. Uh-oh. Yeah, I might not be doing this. It's a little bit deeper than I thought. Still forget that. Onto the dirt road portion here. So maybe a mile and a half all the way to the lighthouse. The snow's not very deep. It's in drifts on the road. If it wasn't for the drifts, it'd just be a couple inches of snow. It's not that deep at all.
After a 30-minute hike up the snow-covered road, I arrived at the lighthouse. As I began to explore the area, I was glad I had made myself get off the couch to make the 90-minute drive, even though the chances of decent light were not all that great. The fog was gone, the sun was sinking in the west, and I was, again, completely alone. As I began to shoot, it struck me how different a location like this feels when you're not getting off a bus with 30 other people. Standing in front of this snow-covered 150-year-old deserted lighthouse on this stunning stretch of rocky coastline with no one else around, it seemed that there was a deeper layer of beauty to be found in solitude. After a week of shooting and a mad scramble to make it to the other side of the island in an attempt to shoot the eclipse, it was finally time to head home. It was clear that maybe April wasn't the best month to visit, but since I was there primarily for the eclipse, I headed home feeling fortunate for being able to get some shots while experiencing totality for the first time. I was also grateful for the opportunity to visit this remarkable island and promised myself that I would make a return visit, hopefully next year with better weather. Before ending this episode, here are a few shots from my amazing week shooting in Newfoundland.